this press conference. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue à cette conférence de presse. We have just ended our 52nd General Assembly, which was this year on a virtual format. As you all know, the COVID-19 has put the aviation sector in an unprecedented crisis. The theme of the Assembly was redefining air transport for a new era. It was a good opportunity for stakeholders to exchange views on the current situation and the strategies to restart and recover for the aviation industry. We recorded for this event more than 447 delegates from more than 69 countries around the world, 4 sponsors and 26 exhibitors. We received keynote remarks, interviews, and presentations from high-level experts of the industry. The key resolutions taken during this assembly are the following: approval of statement of account for the year ended on December 2019, approval of the budget and membership subscriptions for 2021, approval of AFRA 5 years strategic plan 2021-2025. This is very important. It's aligned with members and partners' expectations, and it means also to reduce the over-reliance of the association on membership fees. During this assembly, some appointments in the executive committee was decided for the Western Central region, Congo Airways, for the Southern region, LAM Mozambique, and for the Northern region, Air Algeria. At the level of officers, the chairman of the association for next year is Mr. Désiré Balaziré Bantou, CEO of Congo Airways. The first vice chairman, Miss Yvonne Makolo, CEO Rwandair. Second vice chairman, Miss Amal Mint Maulud, CEO Mauritania Airlines. The president of the association is Mr. Rui Carrera, chairman and chief executive officer of TAG Angola Airlines. And TAG Angola Airlines will host the 53rd AGA in Luanda next year in November 2021. We have also recorded new members and partners joining the association: Overland Airways Limited, CFAX Airlines, South African Tourism, Prodigy Avia Solutions, the Aviland Canada. I want to give just a short summary of the situation of the African airline industry and the perspective for the future. As you all know, operations were stopped during the second quarter of this year with the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Only some cargo and domestic flights were operating. We are seeing some recovery since the reopening of borders in July, but still very slow. 30% of the capacity in August compared to last year, and the load factor is at 32.75%. As you know, the break-even load factor is even higher than 70%. And only 71% of routes operating in February before the COVID-19 have reopened in October. We estimate the loss of revenues for 2020 for African airlines at $9 billion compared to 2019. Travel restrictions are currently a big challenge for African airlines. Testing protocols, quarantine, in some countries and travel bans. The lack of liquidity due to the low activity of airlines is also a big challenge for the restart of African airlines. We estimate that the recovery, the full recovery, will not happen before end 2023 and 2024. Domestic network will restart before intra-Africa, and intra-Africa before intercontinental routes. Still some uncertainty with the second wave we are currently seeing across the world, and also the availability of a vaccine. Yesterday we all have seen some good news. Maybe the vaccine will be available by the end of this year. This will really be a very good news for our industry. For the future, for the restart of the airline business, there are some urgent actions to undertake. On the financial side, AFRA has been, since the beginning of the pandemic, appealing to governments and development financial institutions to support the industry, and we have seen some states giving substantial amounts of support to their airlines. We encourage other kinds of financial relief for airlines. We are confident that all those actions will help our industry to rebound after this crisis. We also think that a critical factor for the rebound and recovery post-COVID-19 is collaboration and cooperation among airlines. Also, there is a need for harmonization of health screening protocols and mutual recognition across the continent to create a seamless and trusted travel and bring passengers and stakeholders in confidence to travel. Also, new technologies will play an essential role in shaping the new normal of the industry in ensuring a smooth, efficient, and safe passenger journey. With more focus on digitalization, airlines will optimize operations, save costs, and contribute to a more sustainable aviation future. Now, since the beginning of this pandemic, AFRA has been at the forefront of actions to support the African airlines. As I said, since March, we launched an appeal to government. We have organized also in April a webinar, and we come up with a 9-pillar recovery plan for our members. We also made another appeal in May to development and financial institutions. We organized on 4th of June a webinar on financial support to African airlines, and also we wrote to African regional economic communities on the 15th of June to urge them to reopen their air border as soon as possible. We participated to the high-level task force set by the African Union Commission to determine actions for restart and recovery of the aviation sector. The high-level task force made a lot of recommendations. Two of the recommendations were to put aviation as a priority sector because aviation is enabling the economic and social development of the continent. The second one is to put together a $25 billion fund to support our industry. We are continuing these actions, and for the future, we will stay by our mission, which is to serve African airlines. This is the opening remarks, Gilbert, and I wanted to make before I answer questions from the attendants.
Thank you, Mr. Berthet, for those introductory remarks, and you have said a few things that have captured my attention. And if you'll allow me, I would like to throw in my own question. You know, I'm the MC, so I can do it, right?
Yes, okay. You can.
So I'll throw in my question, as you know, our colleagues also ask their questions, and it's just to get the pitch that you are making to partners and states on the importance of the aviation sector in Africa. And I think many people here will be interested in knowing the potential of this. How important is it? If you could share some numbers, the potential of this industry, maybe pre-COVID, or even looking forward, what the potential can do if it's fully realized. It's important for people to understand why this sector is so important for the continent.
Yes, the sector is really important for the economy of Africa. It represents $56 billion for the African GDP and 6.2 million jobs. This is very, very important. And a reduction of the air transport activity could have as consequence a loss of 3.1 million jobs across the continent. So this is very, very important to know. And as you know, Africa is a very, very big continent, and ground transportation's infrastructure is very weak. So air transport is very important for Africans to move around the continent.
Thank you very much for answering, for indulging my question. And now I'm going to at least, be indulgent and see who else has a question here. So, colleagues, I'm going to now be looking in the chat section to the comments and questions of our members from the Fourth Estate. 9 million, is it job losses? A question from Romuald. Does 9 million losses estimated in 2020 take into account the second wave of COVID-19? Mr. Berthet, you can address kindly.
Yes, thank you. This is a very, very good question, because I said in my introductory remarks that there are some uncertainty due to the second wave and the time we will get a vaccine. The $9 billion is a loss of revenue for African airlines. So at AFRA, we are making an assessment of the loss of revenues every month. This figure is for the month of October. So for November and December, we'll reassess the amount the airlines are supposed to lose during this 2020 year, and we will see how we can take into account the second wave and also the possibility to have a vaccine as soon as possible. So it's an ongoing assessment. This assessment clearly was not taking into account the impact, the possible impact of the second wave on the industry. As you can see, since the second wave is coming, states are not yet closing their air borders, as we have seen during the first wave. But we are seeing some travel restrictions in many countries. This can also affect the industry. So we will issue in next week another assessment on the loss of revenues for African Airlines.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you very much to you, Romuald, for such an interesting question. And now I would like to go to Michael Maina of Aero News. Nice to connect with you again, Michael. And your question is, SATAM expected to play a role in the industry's recovery? Is it likely to help the recovery for our industry in Africa?
You mean AFRA?
SATAM.
SATAM. SATAM. Okay. The Single African Air Transport Market is a very important flagship project of the African Union, along with the African Continental Free Trade Area and the Protocol of Free Movement of persons. As you know, the objective of SATAM was to improve intra-African connectivity. Not only that, also to create an environment favorable for the growth of air transport in Africa. Because before the COVID-19, the growth trends in Africa were very, very high, and we were expecting double traffic every 15 to 20 years. This trend will be shifted, but will remain. So we think that SATAM is an opportunity to create a conducive environment for African airlines, to make our African airlines more resilient. And I think we believe that the COVID-19 is an opportunity for all of us to understand that having an air transport system resilient is very important. And SATAM is part of the process to have this air transport resilient system. And the African Civil Aviation Commission, which is the executive agency of the SATAM, is continuing to work on SATAM, and we will have on 14th of November, like every year, the celebration, the anniversary of the birthday for the Yamoussoukro decisions. And I will participate to a panel discussion on the SATAM in view of the COVID on next Friday, organized by the African Civil Aviation Commission. And I would like also here to say that we have, as stakeholders, a joint prioritized action plan for the implementation of SATAM. And this plan, AFRA is fully involved in this plan, all stakeholders, and we are continuing to work on this plan. As of today, we have 34 states which committed to SATAM, and we have 18 states which agreed to review their bilateral air service agreement so that to comply with the Yamoussoukro decision. So we will continue our effort because we think that we are on the right way to make the African airlines more sustainable.
Thank you. And just on that question of SATAM, there is a question that is wondering whether it's going to be possible for members to actually collaborate given differences. But perhaps you can come back to that, answer also another question so that we move faster. And that question is going to be, since passenger movement low and there are still fears of security, as the association plan on supporting members to convert their passenger planes into freighters so as to help in recovery. So if you can just take up those two questions. The first one is, can African airlines go above their differences and cooperate? The second one is AFRA going to help airlines convert their passenger planes into cargo? Maybe you can also give context on this cargo question, because I'm sure many people are interested in knowing how airlines are actually managing to make some money from cargo.
Regarding cooperation, I think that even if there are some differences between airlines, they can cooperate. And cooperation is really very, very important. At AFRA, for example, we have put in place a route network coordination and cargo committee. Our last meeting was early on October, and the purpose was to see how African airlines can cooperate so that to build a good connectivity in the continent. We believe that having on the continent a lot of small operators with less than 10 aircraft will be difficult to get sustainability. It's very, very important to cooperate. We need to have some global carriers flying from hubs and to have intra-African operators. And these two systems need really to cooperate. The cooperation can be, there are many types of cooperation, of course. So at AFRA, we are putting in place the forum for our airlines to talk and to put in place the necessary ways of cooperation. Regarding
the African Airlines Alliance is a possibility. That's what you're telling us.
Yes, African Alliance is a possibility. At AFRA, we talked about it before the COVID-19. It's on our plans. But with the COVID-19, we have slowed down the project because our main concern today is to restart and recover. And we believe that at the end of the day, we need really to have an African alliance. And we will work on that. Right. And for the cargo, when the COVID-19 pandemic started in April, we have seen that only cargo flights were operating. Some AFRA members have converted their passenger aircraft on cargo aircraft. And at AFRA, we have put in place a capacity sharing portal, which was launched in August, and about how airlines can share their capacity. It can be passenger aircraft or cargo aircraft also. And the level of activities of cargo business has been growing since the COVID-19. And also we think that when the vaccine will be available, we'll need also cargo operations to bring across the continent this vaccine. It's a lot of volumes and quantity. And at AFRA, we are also working with African CDC to see, because they have also a pharmaceutical platform, to see how we can link our capacity sharing portal with the African CDC portal for the benefits of African states and African airlines.
If you can take a minute to talk about the portal, the capacity sharing portal, and how it works, I think many people will appreciate the importance of such a platform for the industry.
It's very simple. If you are an airline, you have an overcapacity on your fleet, you post on the portal the availability. If another airlines need capacity, this airline can see your availability, and then you can transact with the airline which have the availability, capacity availability. So it's a sort of market to put aircrafts available on the portal.
That is brilliant, and I think that brings to life the fact that you said collaboration and cooperation are really going to be key, together with the joint action plan that you said brings together different stakeholders. So we are really seeing that cooperation come to life. And now we have Bakary. I just want to appreciate Roland, who asked the question on the African Airlines Alliance. Roland O'Harry, thank you for that brilliant question. Bakary, d'abord, vous voulez savoir, les pays invités à mettre 25 milliards de dollars à disposition pour soutenir les compagnies aériennes. Est-ce qu'on peut avoir une précision? Est-ce que c'est par pays? Est-ce que c'est une somme globale? Ce chiffre d'appui, c'est à quel niveau, demande Bakary?
Sorry, Gilbert, if you can allow, your sound is breaking. I'm not sure why. We can't really hear the question clearly.
Oh, okay.
Can you repeat the question?
How about now?
Now it's better.
Okay. Les pays invités à mettre 25 milliards de dollars. Can you hear me?
Oui, I can hear you.
Oui. Donc, les pays invités à mettre 25 milliards de dollars à disposition pour soutenir les compagnies aériennes. Est-ce qu'on peut avoir plus de précision sur le chiffre de 25 milliards? C'est au niveau national? C'est au niveau du continent? Parce que vous aviez parlé de 56 milliards, est-ce que vous pouvez nous donner une précision sur ce fonds de sauvetage ou d'appui aux compagnies?
Merci. Il y a deux choses. Nous avons lancé un appel au gouvernement africain pour venir en aide à leurs compagnies aériennes. Nous avons constaté que depuis cet appel au mois de mars, beaucoup de gouvernements africains ont effectivement mis à disposition des fonds pour leurs compagnies aériennes. Et nous avons constaté que pour la plupart des cas, c'est des aides sous forme de prêts ou de dons à des compagnies nationales détenues par les États. Ça, c'est une première option. La deuxième chose dont j'ai parlé, les 25 milliards de dollars, c'est un fonds qui doit être mis en place par les institutions financières internationales pour aider le secteur de l'aviation. Et sur ces 25 milliards, en fait, tous les intervenants de l'aviation, nous nous sommes réunis pour faire une estimation par secteur, parce qu'il y a les compagnies aériennes, il y a les organismes de navigation aérienne, il y a les aéroports aussi, qui font tous partie du secteur de l'aviation. Donc, nous avons mis ensemble les estimations pour sauver le secteur de l'aviation. Et fort de cela, la Commission de l'Union africaine va adresser une requête auprès des institutions financières internationales pour pouvoir mettre en place ce fonds qui est requis pour soutenir la relance du secteur de l'aviation en Afrique. Donc c'est un travail continu que nous sommes en train de faire avec la Commission de l'Union africaine et qui va certainement continuer dans les semaines et les mois à venir.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. J'espère que vous m'entendez bien. Vous m'entendez? I hope you can hear me okay now.
Je vous entends.
So we have quite a number of questions. Thank you to all of you. And now I'll go to Anthony Kitimo. Question out of the report. What is AFRA doing through regional and international air network to drive growth? This is what is AFRA doing to improve the air network regionally and internationally in order to drive economic growth?
Oui, merci pour cette question. Je pense que j'ai déjà abordé un peu la question de Route Network Coordination. Nous avons mis en place une coordination de route. We have put in place a Route Network Coordination Committee, which is now merged with the Cargo Committee. We had the committee meeting early in October, and the objective is to create a network in Africa with a very good connectivity for African passengers. So we are following the meeting we had in October. We are following with specific studies on the current connectivity situation due to COVID-19 to look at where we have the gaps and then to see which airline can fill the gaps. And we will, at AFRA, will make the airlines to discuss and see how they can coordinate their flight schedules to fill the gaps. So that is what we are currently doing, and this is very, very important, because what we have seen after the recovery, there are a lot of gaps coming across the continent. As I said, only in October, only 71% of routes operated in February before the COVID-19 have really reopened. So to avoid a connectivity gap on the continent, the work AFRA has undertaken with members is very, very important.
I just got, thank you very much, SG. I put off my video just in case it improves the sound quality because of the connection. I have another question from back, and I think it's important, so I'll indulge him and give him two questions. Quelle peut être la contribution des grandes compagnies non africaines dans le continent?
Je n'ai pas entendu la question, vous pouvez répéter?
Quelle devrait être la contribution des grandes compagnies non africaines qui desservent le continent?
Oui, nous avons plusieurs grandes compagnies non africaines qui opèrent sur l'Afrique et d'année en année, leur part de marché par rapport aux compagnies africaines a augmenté. Nous constatons sur les 2 dernières années que les compagnies africaines avaient commencé à regagner un peu sur les parts de marché. Notre volonté à AFRA est réellement que les compagnies africaines puissent avoir une large part de marché sur le trafic intercontinental. Et nous pensons que cela ne pourra se faire que si nous avons des compagnies africaines fortes. Elles doivent être fortes d'abord sur le réseau intra-africain pour pouvoir être aussi fortes sur le réseau intercontinental. C'est la raison pour laquelle nous avons mis en place ce Route Network Coordination pour renforcer les compagnies africaines au niveau du réseau régional. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle nous pensons aussi que les projets comme le Single African Air Transport Market, mais surtout aussi le African Continental Free Trade Area et le protocole de libre mouvement de personnes en Afrique sont des projets importants pour en fait renforcer la position des compagnies africaines sur le continent africain. Et aussi, je voudrais ici dire que la Commission africaine de l'aviation civile vient de lancer une révision de la politique africaine de l'aviation civile qui est une politique qui avait été conçue depuis plus de 10 ans. Donc la nouvelle politique de l'aviation civile africaine va prendre en compte la nouvelle situation des compagnies africaines membres, du Covid, et la nécessité aussi par rapport au réseau intercontinental, la nécessité d'avoir un équilibre des droits de trafic afin que les compagnies africaines puissent regagner leur part de marché. Mais il est important qu'elles soient renforcées, qu'elles puissent offrir un service de qualité aux passagers africains.
Thank you so much, SG, for that very eloquent answer to that question. I hope I'm clearer now. I have switched my connectivity to a different one. We are unfortunately almost running out of time, but I will sneak in a few other questions. And one of them is whether there are reported COVID-19 cases among aviation workers in Africa. Is there any statistics or any effort to look at the impact of COVID-19 in terms of cases, the number of cases among aviation workers? And perhaps I can add what measures are being taken in rebuilding passenger confidence, given that we are now having a second wave of COVID-19. This is coming from Larmi Majanga, who wants to know what can be done to improve the confidence of us passengers.
Regarding the number of cases among aviation sector workers, what I can say regarding the aviation workers is that they have really been very impacted by the COVID-19 because airlines were not operating, so they were not having revenue streams. It means that many airlines have laid off some staff or even have reduced the salaries of the workers. And we believe that with the recovery, these workers will be able to come back to work because, as you know, aviation sector is a very specialized sector, and we need skilled and experienced workers, and it takes time and a lot of money to get expertise. So we really need these workers, and that's why on our 9 pillars recovery plan, we have urged African airlines to try to find solutions so that to motivate these workers and keep them ready to restart working when the COVID-19, when will be over, when the activities will restart. This is very, very important.
Thank you very much. There is one last question. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. What measures are being taken? I think you've just answered that. The next one is, quelle a été la réaction des États au sujet d'éventuel soutien aux compagnies aériennes? C'est-à-dire que vous avez dit que vous avez lancé un appel et je voudrais savoir quelle a été les États.
Oui, bon, je ne vous entends pas très bien, mais je comprends que la question, c'est quelle a été la réaction des États suite à l'appel que nous avions lancé au gouvernement. Oui, nous avons lancé un appel à tous les gouvernements africains Et d'autres organisations ont fait la même chose. Et nous avons constaté, comme j'ai eu à le dire, que plusieurs gouvernements africains ont effectivement débloqué des fonds pour soutenir leurs compagnies. Et certaines ont même débloqué une seconde tranche de fonds au mois d'octobre pour venir en aide à leurs compagnies aériennes. Donc, nous estimons que notre appel a été entendu et nous continuons à demander au gouvernement de continuer à soutenir le secteur de l'aviation. Parce que nous pensons que l'aviation est un secteur très important pour le développement économique et social du continent africain. Et l'aviation doit être considérée comme un secteur prioritaire. L'aviation doit être considérée comme faisant partie de la résilience des économies africaines, parce que les économies vont être en récession pour l'année 2020. Et l'aviation est un secteur qui va favoriser la reprise de l'activité économique à travers le continent.
Merci. Now I'll switch to English with a question from Ivan. Would you advise regional airlines from East Africa to merge and close shop some of them, considering that they are not making profit, and continue billions of dollars in investment from taxpayer funds? Is that something you would advise, sir?
Okay, I will not just address the question for a region. As I said before, for us it's very, very important to have a strong intra-African airlines. So it means that some small airlines across the continent can see how not only to merge, how to consolidate so that to be more stronger. And we also need to have bigger airlines with global activities. For me, having a lot of airlines in East African region means that it's very important to cooperate. You see, I talked about cooperation before. So if you have big airlines from the same region operating the same routes, it will not be profitable for any one of them. So that's why it's really important that African airlines start to cooperate so that to have a good network coordination and so that to be more sustainable and more resilient. So that is our thoughts. It's not only for East African region, it's only for West Africa, Central Africa. If I talk about, for example, West Africa, where I'm from, sometimes you can see on the same routes, at the same time, 3 or 4 flights operating the same routes. This is not good for the airlines, and also it's not good for passengers, because if you concentrate the flights on the morning and the rest of the day there is no flights, this is not a good product for passengers. So cooperation is really important.
Oh, brilliant. That's a good question and a better answer. I just want now to go to Mozambique. How can airlines optimize their operations to build resilience with all the financial difficulties they are facing? Are there some operational adjustments they can make that you would consider important?
Can you repeat, please?
So, how can airlines optimize or improve their operations so that they can become more resilient.
How can airlines
Improve their operations.
Can you repeat, Gilbert?
How can airlines?
I think we lost your audio, Gilbert. We can't hear.
How about now?
Now it's okay.
Yes. So the question is, and it comes from Mozambique, how can airlines optimize their operations to build their resilience with all the financial difficulties they are facing? I think it's a very relevant question, because on the one hand you have the difficulties, and on the other hand you have to optimize operations. Are there any insights you have for them?
Yes, you know, African airlines were financially struggling even before the COVID-19. With the COVID-19, they need support to survive and to restart. But the financial difficulties of the aviation sector is due to some challenges. And we all know these challenges. And we need to work on these challenges, because African airlines are really operating in a high-cost environment. So authorities, decision makers need really to tackle these issues. The level of taxes and charges are very, very high in Africa. And also the fuel prices are very, very high in Africa. Even when the oil prices are going down globally, we can see that in Africa, it's not the case. So there are a lot of challenges. At AFA, we are advocating for to reduce the high-cost environment for African airlines, and also the SATA. We have a joint prioritized action plan. I think I talked about it already. And under the joint action prioritized action plan, there are many actions also so that to create this environment for better sustainability and resilience of African aviation. Gilbert?
Brilliant. Bwana SG. I always learn so much about the aviation industry every time I hear you speak, and I think many people here agree. So we are out of time. We are now at 18:02 in time. I want to just thank everyone who has made time to attend. If you do have more questions, I do encourage you to send those questions over so that we can be able to get you answers via email or through the contacts that you have provided. We thank you again.